Seth MacFarlane is one of the most celebrated stars in Hollywood, and rightfully so. This multifaceted artist is known for a lot of things, but most especially for the animated series Family Guy. And for today's video, we'll be talking about why Twitter hasn't canceled the beloved series yet, at least according to Seth MacFarlane. Plus, Fox didn't quite understand what the creator was aiming for with Orville. Find out all about this and more in today's video. Seth MacFarlane and Family Guy constantly evade the wrath of those outraged by their edgy humor, and here's how. Family Guy is a victim of equal opportunity. Movies, personalities, religions, cultures, races, political beliefs, and obscure pop culture moments that absolutely no one saves the fabulously demented members of the writer's room remembers are all targets of the Seth MacFarlane animated comedy, and the audience frickin' loves it. But there's no denying that during the previous few years, there has been a sense of apprehension among supporters. Family Guy seems to be a show that's ripe for cancellation by the Twitter mob, given the continuously changing and sensitive environment. Family Guy has largely gotten away with being as satirical and offensive as they damned well like, despite some episodes being pulled off TV though, not from streamers and DVDs, and offensive characters being abandoned. Here is how, as described by Seth MacFarlane. It's thanks to their writers, one of which has a background that's uniquely qualified to Fight Network's standard notes. Seth MacFarlane and his co-showrunners Rich Apple and Alex Sulkin discussed the topic of cancel culture in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. Although the show itself has been taken off the air before, the reason wasn't always because of objectionable material. Instead, declining viewership led Fox to discontinue the program, but consumer demand brought it back to life twice. It's absolutely amazing that there hasn't been a significant online backlash to Family Guy, given how frequently it has triggered buttons throughout 21 seasons and counting. When asked why the show hasn't been suspended for being disrespectful, co-showrunner Alex Sulkin said to The Hollywood Reporter, "A lot of the credit goes to our writers who come up with funny, edgy stuff all the time, and a lot of credit goes to Rich Apple, who, with his legal background, is uniquely qualified to Fight Network standard notes." Co-showrunner Rich Apple asserted that Family Guy can get away with almost anything because it is animated throughout the conversation. If you look at South Park and The Simpsons and our show, it's not a coincidence that they're all animated. Apple explained in the interview, and I think people's quote-unquote outrage and willingness to take offense at anything is in a different world when they're animated characters. To me, it's proof that people don't take such offense. Seth MacFarlane, the creator of the series, concurs with this justification. There is no expectation that Peter, Lois, and Brian will act or say the correct thing because they are not actual people. As a result, the Twitter community doesn't appear to become outraged by their on-screen actions. And because he himself hasn't encountered cancel culture anywhere else, MacFarlane notably highlights fury on social media platforms like Twitter. According to Seth MacFarlane, he hasn't found supposed outrage in the actual world, at least that's what he told The Hollywood Reporter. Even though he reads a lot about it on Twitter, it is statistically extremely fringe despite how much people give it credibility. Although he noted that the majority of people aren't on Twitter, MacFarlane doesn't believe he has ever spoken to a single person in the real world who is truly concerned about the condition of edgy comedy. This is true both in terms of comedy and outside of social media and outside of think pieces. So, does Disney ever censor Family Guy? As of the moment, Disney is undergoing a significant amount of change, particularly in terms of the company's strategy and its associations with political ideas that have harmed its brand. Disney has always been regarded as sensitive, regardless of whether its leadership has been left or right of center. Fans were concerned that this would lead to a dilution of their beloved Fox programs like Family Guy and The Simpsons once Disney acquired the company. Co-showrunners Seth MacFarlane, Rich Apple, and Alex Sulkin discussed the difference between how Disney currently handles edgy content and how Fox handled their own in an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. Here's the honest difference, and I say this without fear. Well, I say it with fear and no favor. The difference is, Disney owns so many properties that I will find myself making legal arguments that I know are winners about parody and why we can get away with certain things, Apple told The Hollywood Reporter. He also added, and then the question becomes, well, that may be Rich, but Marvel doesn't want to see its characters portrayed in that light? And I've sometimes said, well, what if we just air it and see what happens? No, that's not how we work. The chairman of Disney General Entertainment Content, Dana Walden, was also interviewed by The Hollywood Reporter. She discussed how she and Disney handle Seth MacFarlane and his staff when they cross the line because they have worked together for more than 20 years. Walden claims that she occasionally contacted him to inquire if he would consider a different joke or if there was somebody we were dealing with who she thought would be upset. She continued by saying it wasn't even fair to say they compromised because Seth MacFarlane essentially always came out on top. And in the end, she supports him. Walden asserts that he is the only one who can accurately determine whether something has been taken too far, and on occasion, Family Guy will cross that line, but she is aware that for the audience to know where that line is, it must occasionally be crossed. So now we know why Family Guy manages to get away with its humor. In other related news, Seth MacFarlane had some ideas on how he wanted the Orville to be perceived, but Fox didn't quite understand it. Get to know the story behind this issue by watching today's video. It came as a bit of a surprise to some who are more familiar with Seth MacFarlane's work from Family Guy that the Orville was relatively successful. The science fiction comedy is actually quite intellectual and interested in discussing important topics without making too many jokes about farts and puke. Particularly, Season 3 received largely favorable reviews for its increasing assurance and maturity. It turns out that MacFarlane is actually interested in writing stories with some emotional depth behind them, contrary to what his TED flicks may have suggested. Seth MacFarlane remembers negotiating the expectations associated with his name with the staff at Fox, where the program originally debuted in the early stages of producing the first season. The actor told Decider in an interview that he was generally in favor of the show's premise, but his one criticism was that it began as a hard comedy and that they really leaned into the jokes. This is evident in the first season's initial trailer, which is primarily just a never-ending series of setups and punchlines. This is clearly misleading because it provides the sense that Star Trek is being parodied. According to MacFarlane, they misrepresented it by portraying it as a sitcom set in space. But that wasn't what the Orville is, at least according to Seth MacFarlane's idea. He claimed that the Orville was an example of a show that was making the unsustainable choice to deliver humorous sci-fi jokes while also telling serious sci-fi stories. According to MacFarlane, you can carry on such activity for an hour and a half in a movie. The struggle of the show to strike a balance between the humor and the drama appeared to be the main cause of the first season's numerous conflicting evaluations. The two tones first appeared to conflict with one another, but as the show went on, they began to merge more naturally. The show The Orville was afforded greater latitude with its pacing and tone when it went to Hulu than it had on Fox, which may have been best for them. According to MacFarlane, for the characters to believe that the stakes are real and for the audience to truly believe that they are real, the characters must also believe that the stakes are real. If the characters believe that the stakes are real, they won't crack jokes when the stakes are high, which is just the basic math of it. It is unfortunate that The Orville has not yet had a season 4 announced because it has only gotten better with time. The actor claimed that they gave up trying to transform this into something they weren't. Making that point obvious was the smartest move the writers ever took, since The Orville was never just a sitcom in space. And with that, we're wrapping up today's episode about Family Guy and Seth MacFarlane's other projects. So, what do you think about Family Guy? Do you think it's too much at times, or do you also think that it manages to justify its content? Please let us know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and before you go, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to our channel with the notification bell on for more videos like these. We'll see you next time.